has spoken here. You can share it with your friends, and you can relive it. But after 20 years in the film business, it's taught her the importance of telling a good story. And 15 years in the emotional intelligence field showed Kat how stories are the foundation of our personal and collective realities. A lifetime of writing taught her that the stories we tell ourselves and others become our legacy. Stories can enrage us, inspire us to action, and create our world. What makes a great story? And how can we raise the bar on the stories we collectively create? Lake Heritage Spiritual Community, please help me welcome Kat Thompson.
Thank you. I'm going to need to update that because it's really more like 30 years now that I've been in the emotional intelligence field. Wow, how time flies. So this was a particularly, I said yes to Gary for this date without asking him what the topic was, and when he told me it was finding inspiration, I was like, oh boy. It's been a rough year for me in terms of inspiration. I turned 70 a year ago tomorrow, and my body just started going through this terrible pressure every time I saw something on my calendar. And I was finally like, what's happening here? And my body said, I don't want anything on the calendar. I don't want to make plans. I want to take every day as it comes. I want to feel what I feel like doing, and I don't want any more structures. I was like, oh boy, okay, sure, we'll do that. Well, I was in free fall for most of the year because of that. Because when you take your structures away, who are you? What are you? What's your purpose in life if you don't have that all marked out on your calendar? So there was a lot of, and I could not find inspiration. Nothing inspired me to do anything. So I've been thinking about this topic a lot, and when Gary told me what the topic was, I laughed and said, all right, now I have to actually put it down on paper and really like take the whole year and kind of do something with it. So first thing I'd like to do is, if somebody could tell me what your definition of inspiration is, I'd love to hear it. Who's got an idea? Something that makes your heart sing. That's a great explanation. Anybody else? Yes? Something that spurs you into an action, right? Okay, yes?
High energy.
High energy. Oh yeah, high energy, sure. So I went on all these websites that were about inspiration, and it looked like they were all kind of copying each other because it was the same information on like 25 or 30 of these. So then I went to the dictionary, which is something that I love to do, is if I'm working on a topic, go to the dictionary first and see what the dictionary says. And I have to say that I was really surprised by what I found in the dictionary. The first thing was an inspiring agent or influence. Well, if you're trying to explain the definition of inspiration, you can't say it's an inspiring agent because we don't yet know what inspiration is, right? The second one is A, the quality, state, of being inspired. Again, a non-explanation. B, something that is inspired. That's a non-explanation. And I laughed at this one, a scheme that was pure inspiration. I'm like, okay, a scheme, I can get behind that. But again, where's the definition of inspiration itself? And then number 3 blew my mind, the act of drawing in, specifically the drawing of air into the lungs. Who's ever heard that for a definition of inspiration? Yeah? And it makes sense because in spirit, right? Inspiration is in spirit. How does spirit come into the body? Through breathing. Number 4 was a divine influence or action on a person believed to qualify him or her to receive and communicate sacred revelation. I was like, well, that could be schizophrenia, or that could be channeling, or that could be downloads. And then B, the action or power of moving the intellect or emotions. A lot of the places that I was looking at on the web use the word excitement, that they use the word excitement to be almost synonymous with inspiration. So I was like, okay, there is that sense of energy and joy and action, taking action. And finally, the act of influencing or suggesting opinions. So my big question this year was, why does inspiration disappear? What happens when inspiration disappears and you no longer can find it? That was sort of my journey this last year. And I was really struggling with that. Why did inspiration disappear for me? Is it because... So then I started to look at, is inspiration always attached to action? Do we need to be inspired to do something to be inspired? You know, do we need to take an action in order to be inspired? Or can we be inspired and not do anything about it? And I was thinking about, I don't know how many of you might have seen this video. There was a Native American man who was badly crippled. I can't remember if he had an accident or what it was, but he was badly crippled and he was in a lot of pain. He didn't have a lot of flexibility. He wanted to learn how to do yoga, and he went to a bunch of different yoga teachers. Nobody would take him on. He finally found somebody that would do it, and he took a little video of himself every week for an entire year and showed him, falling over and, not being able to move very much. But he kept with it and he kept with it. And at the end, it was amazing to see what he had done for himself in that year. That was a really inspiring video for me, not to the point where I made that kind of a commitment, though, to do the same thing for myself. So sometimes inspiration is just a thing that you admire about something else, about somebody else. But also, sometimes inspiration is a call to action from your spirit. So people that you see or hear about or meet that inspire you, they inspire you to an action, or they inspire you to, raise your own bar, right? So when we say someone is inspirational, what do we mean by that? Who'd like to answer that? When you find somebody who's inspirational, what does that mean to you?
They typically have their shit together. I was in Austin last May, and I was grabbing a smoothie or something like that from the shop. This is in Austin, Texas, not Austin, Minnesota, but in Texas. And I bumped into this guy, and I immediately recognized him. And I said, I just wanted to tell you that you're a huge inspiration. And he responded back with, you inspired me. And I thought that was really interesting. There was Garrett McNamara, the guy that served the 100-foot wave in Portugal, and he did all the HBO specials and things like that. There's just something in someone sometimes where you're like, that's awe-inspiring. I'm inspired by my children. I'm inspired by my wife. I'm inspired by my community, places I visit.
Okay, thank you.
Hard thing to answer.
Yeah, it is a hard thing to answer because I think people who have really raised the bar for themselves do inspire us. I think that people who overcome adversity, like tremendous adversity, that's inspirational, right? Those are the stories that we often see that are put out there as inspirational, as people overcoming great adversity. People who have their shit together, you go, I'd like to be like that, yeah. So, what inspires you? Music? And when you say music, tell me, what is the process of inspiration for you through music?
It's interesting because
I am going to interrupt here so that we collect all the awesome audio for
yeah.
YouTube. Let's
Thank
collect
you.
this.
It's interesting because music just kind of comes to me. Like I have a Spotify account, and it's like spirits just like, okay, this song is a song you should hear, and it just comes into my account, and it's and it can really move me.
And when it moves you, what happens to you physically?
Sometimes I just feel my heart open, and maybe my third eye open, and I feel joyful and filled with energy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. So inspiration is very much a physical sensation, isn't it? There's something that happens in the physical body that tells us that there's inspiration coming in. And I wonder how many people who sit at a desk all day and sit at a desk all night and watch a screen all day and watch a screen all night and aren't really in their bodies. I wonder how much inspiration passes them by. Because if we're not really strongly and firmly in our body, how do we even feel inspiration when it comes by us, right? So I'm a big believer that your body is the interpreter of all of the reality that's going on out there, and that if we're not in it, we miss a tremendous amount of information. And it puts us into, the screen state, I call it, where we're disconnected from not only our body, but from community, and often nature as well. I find a lot of inspiration in nature. I like to go to places that are magnificent, that make me gasp in awe, because that to me is the best inspiration. And sometimes that can just be a walk along the Mississippi River. It's an amazing, we're so lucky to live, at this incredible river. And there's so much wilderness down there that you can walk and walk and walk and sometimes never see another person. And it's always changing. There's always something different when you go down there. So sometimes just a simple stepping out of the door and going someplace where there's not a lot of buildings or people can be inspiring and fill you with energy, lift you up, open your heart, all of those things, and move you into a different energetic vibration. And I think that for me, that's what inspiration does. It's like I get excited and I'm like, oh yeah, I could do this, I could do that. And sometimes I go home and I start doing whatever that thing is that I get inspired to do. Often it's writing, but it can be other things. It could be, classes or something like that. So there was a lot of lists about how you can be inspired. I pulled some of the things off of there, but I also wrote a lot of these for myself. Ask people what they love most in life. These can be people that you're living with. These can be people that you're related to. These can be people you meet at the coffee shop. What do you love most in life? Think of how different our world would be if we just got in the habit of asking that question once a day to somebody. Go to a dog park and watch dogs play. That was my favorite thing to do when I had dogs, and it's still my favorite thing to do without dogs. Because dogs playing are like television for me. I had a neighbor across the street from me that had 2 dogs, and in the snow, I would just sit in the front window and watch them play for hours because they made me laugh. And there's something about play and joy that brings inspiration, or maybe allows inspirational energy and messages to come through the body. When you're relaxed and you're playing, or you're in that playful energy, it seems like we're more open to hear things that might be coming from our spirit. Walk by the river or in a forest. How many people like to listen to or watch inspiring podcasts? I'm not really a podcast person, but my daughter listens to them constantly when she's not working. And so I overhear them often, And she's everything from quantum physics to all these different science geeks to mysterious things that happen to people and everything in between. And so sometimes I just get hooked and I'm like, wait now, what? And I sit down and listen, and that becomes an inspiring thing for me to listen to as well. Make a bucket list. Okay, this is one of those things about creating your reality. If you make a bucket list of all the things that you would like to experience, right? And then every week you take one thing on that bucket list and you sit down and you write about it in great detail. What are you doing? How does it smell? How does it feel on your body? What's your environment like? How are you feeling within that environment as you're doing your bucket list? The more specific you can be with that, the faster you will attract that to you. That is the law of attraction, is that your emotional state, when you are focusing on something that you would like to bring into your life, the more excited that you are about it, the faster it comes. And you have to be specific. When I used to do vision board classes, people would work on their boards for, half an hour, 45 minutes or whatever. And then I would appoint somebody to be the vision board fairy. And I'm like, your job is to go around to everybody's vision board and see if you can understand what they're asking for. And at least half the class, nobody could figure out what they were trying to ask for because they weren't specific. It was a lot of generalizations, let's say. We sometimes struggle with specificity because it's not really encouraged in our culture unless we're focusing on a job. But to focus that intently on your own dreams and visions, there hasn't in the past been a lot of reward for that. So that's one of the things that you can do. If you have a bucket list of things that you would really like to experience, pick them, write them down, get specific, go back over and over, put a picture of it up, cut something out of the magazine or whatever, and just keep thinking about it with joy, with excitement, like, yeah, I'm going to do this. And trust me, it will come. It will come. That's the magic of the emotional body. Okay, change your environment. How many people rearrange furniture on a regular basis? I turned my living room into the dining room and my dining room into the living room. And it made such a difference in the house. The whole house changed. And I'm always moving furniture back and forth from room to room. Oh, I'd rather have these chairs over here. Oh, I'd like to put the table here. Oh, I'd like to do this. And every time I do that, there's like a burst of energy that the house has. And then I feel inspired to clean out closets or to, tackle some deep cleaning jobs or whatever. So sometimes just moving things around in your environment, changing the structure that you live within can change the energy dramatically. And that becomes inspiring. It's like it opens up room for inspiration to come in. All right. Here's another really cool thing. When you clean out your closets or your junk drawer or your attic or your garage, and you start letting things go, proactive letting go can actually prevent grief trauma. Grief is the emotion of letting go. So if we're not proactively letting go, and our grief begins to build up, because we're taught in this culture that we can only grieve like at a funeral or at a loss, some kind of a loss. And some people never really grieve. They just kind of do as much as they can to keep moving forward, and then it gets packed away in a box somewhere. When you get too many of those grief boxes piled up, your emotional body will create an event to force you to grieve. So you can proactively grieve by letting things go, and that's why a lot of people can't let things go, because they don't want to feel the grief of the loss of the thing, whatever it is. It is a really good exercise, though, for preventing grief trauma. So I encourage everybody to think about that. Go outside your comfort zone. This is a hard one for me. This will shake up the structures that your life's been built upon. And once your structures are breaking down and shaky, you have an opportunity to look at them and say, why do I believe this? Why have I always believed this? Why have I always believed that? Who told me that? I was really lucky when my daughter was young. She was a why child. But why? But why is it that way? But why do we have to do it like that? But why? And so I would try to answer her questions, and each why took me back further and further until often, probably 75% of the time, I would say, I don't know why. That's something that somebody told me when I was young, and I just believed it. That's a stupid thing to believe. All right, let's make up something different. So she made me question my beliefs at a very young age, and it allowed me to really start looking at, why do I believe what I believe? And I wish I could say that I did get better with age, and now as I'm in my 70s now, I find myself sort of reverting back to these beliefs that don't serve me. And I'm like, well, that's interesting. That's ancestral trauma coming up. And I'll talk about that later. So, check your structures, check your beliefs. Why do you believe what you believe? Who told you that? And then take a break from your screens. Take a screen fast. You know, they talk about how fasting once a week is really healthy for your body, right? Because it puts you into this other state. Fasting from screens would be equally important because it allows your brain to break away and to focus on what's real in your world right outside of you, as opposed to what's happening virtually. Learn something new. There's something called Masterclass. Has anybody heard of that? Yes. It's like a small fee that you pay, and you can take, numerous classes over a period of time, as many classes as you'd like to take, of every different subject. And then MIT has open coursework, which is all MIT classes that are completely free online. And YouTube has hundreds of thousands of how to do videos, everything from carpentry to cooking to sewing to whatever. So sometimes pushing yourself out of your comfort zone, trying something new, taking a class, switching it up in your brain, can open up and expand your ability to be inspired. And when you're inspired, you make change in your life. Your life begins to look different, begins to feel different. Go to a museum. Read a good book. Take an art class. This is one of my favorite things. Have a conversation with somebody about what you think happens after death. I just lost two really important people to me in October and November, and my biggest regret is that I didn't have that conversation with them. I got to have that conversation with my mom before she died, and I've had the conversation with a lot of people who are still alive, but I only really had a number of conversations over my lifetime with people before they died where we talked about that, and I was really impressed with some of the stories that I heard, especially from older people, about what they believed was going to happen when they died, and that they weren't afraid. They weren't afraid to go because they had a story waiting for them, right? Find an elder person who still has their cognitive skills and ask them, what were the most important things they learned in their life? We have such a library of elder people who are not being utilized. What is that saying? When my father died, an entire library was buried. And if you think about the wisdom of our elders and how it is not being passed on, we're not asking them questions, we're not saying to them, what are the most important things that you think happen in your life? Do you have any regrets? How do you feel about dying? Those are conversations, yes, they could get emotional, yes, they could be scary, and yet that's the true connection that we have with each other, is the ability to enter those spaces that might be frightening, but are also really, really juicy and full of emotional nutrition. Get a journal and write letters to your ancestors. I do this all the time. I have an ancestor altar at home, and I talk to my ancestors. I ask them for help. They are with me in every healing session I do with people, or every time I'm with a client, or every time I'm on retreat. My ancestors are there with me. And we're in a really interesting time right now, because we have so much ancestral trauma in our DNA. And if we don't do something about that. I don't know what the next 30 years are going to look like, if we'll even make it. Because we keep repeating the traumas over and over and over again. And the ancestors have shown me that they're like lined up on the other side saying, come on, we got to do this. We're on this side. We'll do everything we can on this side, but we need you to do it. We need you to do the healing on your side. So, because of that, well, I'll talk about that in a minute. Find somewhere nearby that gives you a feeling of awe. Does anybody have a favorite spot in the cities that they go to that makes them feel awe? Minnehaha Falls, great. Anybody else? Yeah?
Anywhere where I'm surrounded by a lot of people. People inspire me.
People inspire you, great, that's great. Yeah, we live in a unique area where we still have a lot of, wild energy along the river, and our park system is incredible. It's easier, I think, to go out and find inspiration in the Twin Cities than it can be in some other big cities. Pray and meditate, of course. That's huge for inspiration. Because when you pray and or meditate, that's a big circle of different ways to do that. You're opening yourself up to listen. One of the things that we have to learn is how to listen to the other energies, right? So I have a former client, and she heard about my ancestor altar, and she's like, oh, I need that to have my ancestors help me get what I want. I was like, well, that's not really how that works. You don't just get to give them an order and then have them deliver it. It's a give and take. You have to talk to them, and you have to talk to them on a regular basis. I do have one ancestor who's my go-to when I really need help with something. She helped us get our house, my daughter and I, buy a house when we were running into some difficulties. I just went to the altar, I wrote her a note, stuck it under her picture, boom, she took care of it. But there's other things that I don't get that kind of help with. There's other things that's like, yeah, this one's on you. You got to do this yourself. But they are available. I also work with nature intelligences. They are available, and you have to learn how to hear them. So listening to other kinds of messages is crucial for us right now in our species evolution. We got to learn to listen, especially to nature. Nature knows how to heal. Nature could heal this planet in 3 days if we partner with her. We have to see nature as a partner. And so many people see nature as something to exploit in some way or another. Look at all the lawns, the lawns that are chemically sprayed and tidy, and there's no wildlife there. There's nothing. The soil's dead. There's no animals hanging out there. There's nothing. So we have to learn. I've been working, there's a woman called Mary Reynolds who is a huge inspiration for me. She wrote a book called We Are the Ark. She's an Irish award-winning landscape designer. And she's asking everybody across the world, find some small place in your property. Even if you live in an apartment, if you have a balcony, you can put, a pot out there with native plants or something, and leave it alone. And she said, give nature a piece that you don't have anything to do with. You're not maintaining it, you're not weeding it, you're not fixing it, you're not making it pretty. You're giving it back to nature. She's a huge inspiration for me. Another inspiration is Joel Salatin. How many people know him, the lunatic farmer? Oh, he's so great. He's the regenerative farmer guy in, where is he? Virginia? Somewhere up there. He's amazing. He's totally amazing. And so if you don't know Mary Reynolds or you don't know Joel Salatin, check them out. They're hugely inspirational. Focus on what is good in the world and good in yourself. And then if that inspires you as you're focusing on that, put it in your journal. Journals are great. I've been journaling since I was 16, and I always encourage my clients to journal. Because when you journal, you're writing with your hand, right? Your left and right brain are connecting. And so you're not only getting your logical brain, you're getting your emotional brain. And those things begin to speak to you. I write things in my journal that I read back later and I'm like, who wrote this? This is not mine. And then it's like, whose handwriting is that? So it's almost like sometimes I just need to pick up a pen and start writing because that's how I speak to myself. That's how I hear the messages that I'm too distracted in my daily life to listen to. So making a journaling structure is a great way to, it's like the whole body goes, oh, she's going to listen now, let's go. And sometimes I don't like what's coming out, and I know I also have to listen to it. This is my favorite one. Start a courtship with your body. See exercise as a love letter. See yoga as a prayer to your body. Our bodies are the most miraculous things. This blew my mind. We take in, let me see if I can remember the exact amount. We take in something like 200,000 bits of information per second from the exterior world. And our brain filters out everything except like 100. And that 100 that it chooses is the 100 that matches what we believe. So 99% of what's coming in to our energetic field, we are not hearing or seeing. And so if we can access that information through our body better, our world begins to open up. The world gets much, much bigger when you're able to receive those other bits that right now are being pushed aside. Grow something. It can be a plant, it can be an idea, it can be art, anything. Grow something. It's important to watch things that are living come to fruition, to see them grow and be alive, and that you had a hand in that. It's important to see an idea grow. If you're an artist or you're a musician or you sew or you do craft or whatever, from inception to completion, that is a process of inspiration. And I have a art teacher. She said 90% of children are traumatized through art when they're young by not doing it correctly, or the teacher doesn't like what the child's doing, or whatever. There's a structure that the child doesn't fit into, and so they stop creating art. And yet creation is our birthright. So we need to find a way always to be creating something, because that is what feeds our spirit. Our spirit is here to create. Find a tree close to where you live and start a relationship with it. You can ask it what its name is. You can check in with it every day. Ask it how it's doing. Ask it if there's anything you can do for it. Does it need water? Does it need fertilizer? Does it need, are there limbs falling down? You can go and sit with your back against a tree and meditate, or you can just sit and ask the questions and then listen for the answers. Trees will talk to you. Trees are very chatty, and they love it when you come and ask them questions. So I encourage everybody to find a tree and have a relationship with that tree. And then finally, go on retreat. So in my year of looking for inspiration and not finding it, I was really at one of the lowest points, I think, in my life. And a series of synchronicities happened to me several years ago when I was on my way to Mexico. I ran into a woman in the airport. She had taken a workshop with me 20 years before that. She had built a place in Mexico. I tried to get there that year, it didn't work. Tried to get there last year, it didn't work. She called me out of the blue and she said, I think you should do a retreat this year. And it was the first thing all year that gave me that little spark of excitement. And I was like, yeah, let's do this. So we've been working on that for several months, and I do have some flyers with me here, but it is a retreat for healing ancestral trauma, and it's going to be in Mexico. It's going to be in March, and it's going to be awesome. And so now that I have started working on that, planning it out, writing this stuff, you know, it's like this whole energetic wave is just taking me, and I'm flying along with it because it feels really good to be moving from inspiration rather than moving from structures that I put on my calendar. This is what my body was asking for. Please, 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 just let go of everything and let us be inspired. And I really, by October, I had lost faith that I would ever be inspired again. And then I lost my sister, who was supposed to go with me to Mexico. And that was such a blow, and then I was just really at rock bottom. And so when you're at rock bottom, what's the only place you can do? Where's the only place to go? Up, right? I wasn't thinking that at the time, but that's right when she reached out to me. And so there's something about getting to rock bottom, grieving, and being unstructured that allowed something new to come in and inspire me to go forward again. So inspiration can come in very strange ways. It can come when you're least expecting it. It can come when you don't even believe in it. And there's this list of things that you can do to be inspired. I will tell you, none of those things worked for me this year. I had no interest in doing any of them. None. And I was like, why can't you just do this and be inspired? It's like, yeah, don't feel like it. Don't feel like it. And so that kind of scared me because in my whole life, I've never been in a place where I didn't feel like being inspired or doing something to inspire myself. And so I lost faith in myself. I lost faith in who I was. I lost faith in what I know. I felt like at 70, I knew less than I've ever known in my entire life. It's like I know nothing. I know nothing. I should not be teaching. I should not be seeing clients. I know nothing. And yet, through that breaking down of my structures, questioning everything I believed, really feeling like there was nothing left for me in life, and really sitting with that. I sat with that for months. And it was the most uncomfortable place I've ever been. And now I'm coming out of it. And now I'm, in hindsight, I'm looking back and I'm like, why didn't you know that? Why didn't you know that that was going to be the cycle? Of course that's the cycle. It's always the cycle. But I don't know about you, but when I'm in that downside of a cycle, I don't remember what the upside of the cycle is like. I don't remember any of it. I don't remember how it feels. I don't remember how it looks. And you can get stuck there for a very long time. The thing that I think saved me was that I had no expectations of anything. And that was a first for me. So I was like, I'm here till I'm done, period. So, what other ideas do you guys have to get inspired? What are some of the things that you do to get inspired? Anybody? I'm going to have to call on you if you don't speak. Dance?
Dancing.
Dance is a great inspiration, yes. Because you're in your body, right? You're in your body, you're playing with your body when you're dancing. Your body loves to play. Exactly. It's way more fun in your house. You can pick your own music. You can dress however you want. Who else? What inspires you? What inspires you?
Sing it, John.
Well, Kat, I think you answered the question, and it's been rolling around in my mind for years. And I think for me, the answer is create something. And that's why journaling is inspiring because you're creating a narrative. Traveling because you're experiencing a new environment. Anything that involves creation seems to me to be inspiring.
That's a very good point. I think you're right. I think creation is the ultimate inspiration, and it feeds on itself. You know, when you get inspired to create something and you start working on that creation, it feeds you to keep going, right? It feeds you to go bigger and keep going and go to completion of that thing. And thank you for talking about narrative, because I take a writing class with this woman, Laura Lentz. She's an incredible writer. And she's all about story. It's all about, and she said, everybody has stories that need to be told. We need to be hearing each other's stories because that's how we connect with each other. So we do these little 2-minute writes. She gives us a prompt, and then we have 2 minutes to do a writing, and then after a couple of those, we get a 13-minute write. And then we break up into small groups and we share those stories. And I've never heard a bad story. People just, and sometimes we're sobbing as we're listening to each other's stories, because the things that we're saying are things that are common to all of us and that have incredible pain and trauma wrapped up in them often, or joy. And so when you're writing your own narrative and you're journaling, you're telling your story, and you're telling your story to yourself. And what you may find is that the parts of you that are critical of you will get tired of writing. And then the parts of you that love you, that appreciate you, that think you're amazing, begin to speak, begin to tell their stories. I always let the crabby Appletons go first. I'm like, all right, lay it on me. Why do you hate me? Blah, blah, blah. And when they're done, they're done. They just want to be heard. They want me to hear their criticism, those voices. And I listen to them. And then the next stories come out, the narratives come out of, but look what when you did this, or remember that experience, or look how courageous you were at that particular moment. So I'm going to encourage you all to write your stories and share your stories. Share your stories with each other. That's why I remember when my mom was dying, my sister was horrified that I wanted to ask her what she thought was going to happen after she died. And she wouldn't let me near my mom. She thought that was the most awful thing that somebody could do. And I was like, because when I was in my 30s, I used to have adopted moms. These older women would find me, we'd find each other, and they became my moms, because I didn't have a very good relationship with my mom for a long time. And there was a woman who lived next door to me, and we used to go to life drawing classes together every Sunday. And when we talked about dying, and she had a story. She knew exactly what was going to happen. She was not afraid. And when she had a stroke and she couldn't speak anymore, and I would go visit her in the nursing home, I would say to her, I'm so grateful that we talked about this, because I am not afraid for you. And she would just get this big smile on her face, because we'd had the conversation, and she knew that I didn't have to have any emotional baggage around her dying, because I already knew where she stood with that. So find those places where you can have those conversations that open you up, and you get to share from your heart with somebody things that you would never think of talking about, perhaps, or things that are not normally spoken of in polite company. Those things are important, very important. So we're all here. We all have stories. Let's tell them to each other. It's going to be very fun. The last thing on here, I'd like to send you home with just a little thought. How can we inspire others to move to unity consciousness, where we can feel the fact that we are all one? Because if we don't feel that oneness, it's very hard to stay in a unity consciousness energy. You have to feel it, which means you have to be in your body. And then how do we inspire, like she said, you know, people who have their shit together? Would that be somebody who's really firmly in their body and in unity consciousness? And is that why we are attracted to people like that? Are we attracted to people who are living unity consciousness because we're hoping to be inspired to get there ourselves? That's why a lot of the people that I am inspired by, I feel like they're living in that unity consciousness. And I would like to get there. I'd like to be better at that. I would like to be there more of me and more often. So that's all I got for you. Any questions? Comments?
One of the words I didn't hear in here is catalyst. Inspiration to me is a catalyst.
Catalyst.
Toward
That's a
something.
great.
And I was surprised to not hear that from the dictionary thing. But as a designer, creative problem solver, sometimes when I'm stuck on something we learned long ago, we just have to take ourselves out of that. Go for a walk. Go anyplace else. Go do something with zero expectation and walk through the store or something. And then the inspiration kind of comes to you find something that becomes a catalyst that you put together.
That's a really good point. Thank you for saying that. It's so true. It's like, and again, it comes back to structures. You know, we build our life around our beliefs because that's what makes our life easy, right? The structures of belief allow us to kind of move through life a lot of times without a ton of consciousness, a ton of energy, right? It's habit because that's how we are easy. And so sometimes just taking yourself out of that and going into that state of receptivity will shift it up, give you the catalyst, and allow you to make that change. The inspiration can come in because you're listening then.
I think it's also very interesting that we see somebody's inspirational and they've got their stuff together. If you were to ask them, though, that's often not as much the case. And I guess I would turn and say, each of us is probably inspirational to someone else.
Yes.
In some manner.
Exactly. Everybody has their shit together somewhere.
We just don't know where it is.
Thank you for that. Thank you for that. All right. Thank you very much. We're going to do the offering now.
That's what. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Please give it up. Give it up for Kat Thompson. And that's what we're about here. Each week is being challenged and challenging ourselves and thinking, and it's great. And I go home each week inspired by my Sundays when I come in, or when I live stream. Don't forget, you can sit on your couch and drink your coffee and live stream, or go back and check it out later. This is the time when I would remind you that we are here because of you and your donations of funds, your time, your effort. You're certainly welcome to volunteer and do things, but we keep the lights on. We're going to change this light bulb later, and a new radiator's coming, and all kinds of fun. But this is a wonderful, wonderful old building, and it takes a lot to keep it cooking. So we do appreciate your kind offerings.
It's your birthday.
told there might be another birthday reason from Gary, but tomorrow is Kat's birthday. So happy birthday to her. We'll sing this. I can ask you to repeat after me and raise your hands. God's perfect love flowing through me blesses and multiplies all that I do, all that I am, and all that I give. Thank you. I was doing that from memory. I didn't have my cheat sheet. So as we like to do it, like Harriet, let's make a circle. We'll cut it right across here, someplace convenient, so you three can stay where you be. And we'll make a circle, and Kat's going to send us up for some inspiration. While we're making that circle, I'd remind you that she's got some information. We're going to cut across the middle here somewhere. In the garden room, she's got some flyers. You're welcome to grab those.
Also, for those of you who bought the book, the second edition is out. It's on Amazon in Kindle and in paperback now. So it's called The Secret Language of Emotion, Decoding the Mystery of Feelings. So now it's available through Amazon. All right, now that we're all in a kind of a good spot, drop your hands. You're going to put your left hand up and leave it alone. You're going to take your right hand and go to your neighbor's left palm, and you're going to feel around till you feel the energy kick. Woo! There we go. All right, and now it's going around the circle. So feel it coming in on your left side. Your left side's your receiving side. Your right side's your giving side. So we're going to send this around, and every time it goes around the circle, it's going to pass through your heart. As it goes from your left hand, it's going to go through your heart and out the right side. And so every time, send a little more love, a little more compassion, a little more openness, a little more trust, a little more peace, and follow it around the circle. And as it's going around the circle, you can feel it building and building and building. Whew, you guys are a powerful group. So we have this beautiful vortex of energy in the center here. And what I'd like to ask each of you is to put, put one of your ancestors in there that needs some healing. Can be, and anybody who's dead is technically an ancestor, so you don't even have to be related to them. And see them being washed by this vortex of beautiful colors and lights and energy, washing all of the trauma, washing all of the beliefs, my brain is trying to say the sentence and I'm so involved in the visuals. All of the beliefs that no longer serve any of us. Let that wash through your ancestors. All the limitations. See your ancestor in their most beautiful, creative self. Absolutely perfect. The original Christ consciousness blueprint. Whew. And now we're going to have your ancestors dissipate. And we're going to do a big inhale, and on the exhale, you're going to bring your hands together like you're holding a ball. So we'll take a big inhale. Exhale. Feel that energy ball. Is it the size of a coconut? Is it the size of a basketball? Is it the size of a softball? Find your energy ball. And that vortex is still going, now it's going up, and it's starting to move out over the city of Minneapolis, and it's just going to keep going and going and going. But we've got a little bit of a ball of energy here that's pretty high octane. And we're going to take it, we're going to take a big inhale, and on the exhale, we're going to put it right over our heart. So big inhale, exhale, let yourself receive that. And one more big inhale, and on the exhale, you can drop your hands. There we go. Thank you very much.